everyone, it's Tani Games here. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here with a speed build. This is my kind of like Bayou inspired speed build. So I went very kind of like jungly, I guess. I used a lot of the jungle items for this kind of look. So I hope I mean, obviously I've got no experience with an actual bayou and stuff like that, so I'm just trying to go off what, you know, I know from like Princess and the Frog and other media and stuff like that, so I know it's not perfect. You know, this isn't going to be an accurate representation build, but this is my kind of like Bayou inspired build for the Glade in Disney Dreamlight Valley. But I was really excited to do this. It was nice to do something maybe, I don't want to say a bit different, but something that really leans into the theme of the Glade of Trust. I feel like this kind of setup and decor really works well in this area. So I think all the foliage and decor pieces and stuff that I chose all kind of complemented each other and worked together really well. And even though it's kind of not what I would want as a long-term build in my valley, I actually think this looks pretty nice. I was pretty happy with it. As you all know, kind of trying to stick fairy core, but I think some of the natural elements in here will work for my long-term plaza, so I may keep some of the ideas that I've had during this build and carry them over, because I did like quite a few elements of it when I was doing the build. I wanted to keep it mostly natural. Like I said, I didn't want it to have kind of like a build up of a lot of houses. So I have got the Bayou house and I have got the jungle house in this build, but I felt like they kind of worked because they fit in with the vibe. Like obviously the jungle house is covered in kind of like moss, vines and trees, and the wood colours, so it kind of blends in very nicely. And the Bayou cottage is obviously a Bayou cottage, so it fits in perfectly as well. I kept the Bayou cottage in the water, and then the jungle house is up at the back end of the Glade. I also use the there's an item that's a premium shop one. It's the Fountain of Youth one. It comes in like a Pirates of the Caribbean bundle. I decided to use that as well just because I think it's quite a nice piece and I think it always works well in the Glade. Even when I first used that piece, I used it in the Glade because I felt like it just makes the most sense. I think covered in the moss and the things like that, it really works with this kind of like build and aesthetic that I was doing. I also did a little camping area, but I wanted it to feel very small, so I didn't do it as like a designated campsite, but rather that someone's maybe exploring this area and has decided to set up camp for the night. That was kind of like the aesthetic I wanted to go for. Now, I didn't include any of the glowing mushrooms because that wasn't the kind of aesthetic I wanted to go for, but I did go with a lot of the vine lamps, and I did keep a lot of the naturally spawning mushrooms because I think they look quite nice in this kind of build. Usually it's the kind of thing that I would get rid of, but because they don't glow and they kind of have this how do I describe it? I don't want to say like murky feeling, but I just feel like they fit in with the natural vibes and aesthetics of this build. Now there's a few Lion King and kind of like Sunlit Plateau inspired items that I also use in this build. I just think they kind of work. I think they look kind of nice. They're very natural pieces, so I think they go together quite nicely. Most of the decor elements I have that aren't foliage are all centered around the houses, so around the Bayou cottage and also the jungle house. By the Bayou cottage, I imagine them to be kind of like maybe a worker, like maybe they catch things, fish things and stuff like that, and then sell it to the local town or gather resources from the jungle and things like that. So I really wanted to kind of have like an area set up that was maybe kind of, I don't want to say industrialized, but like kind of like a workman's tool station, you know. So we've got like the crates, we've got the barrels and the sacks, you know, things that they would use within their job. And then they also have a nice little seating area as well. Up by the jungle house, I decorate with a little seating area, which I think is obviously quite nice. You know, these people live in nature, they probably want to get out and enjoy it sometimes. I also did like a washing line kind of area. So I used, there's like a bathtub or a wooden tub, not really a bathtub, a wooden tub item that you get from the Mulan realm. So I used that. I used some of the dirty socks from the Monsters Inc. collection, and then I actually used the there's like these festive cocoa banners. I use that to simulate a washing line. It's probably the closest I have to that kind of aesthetic. It's that or using the training camp fence, and I thought I'd mix it up this time and go with the cocoa banners. I find it so bizarre that I want a washing line in game, but that is something that I do really, really want. And then a lot of the other decor, other than like the campsite decor, is all like foliage pieces. So a lot of grass, a lot of sort of fan plants, a lot of bracken and ferns and things like that. And obviously the trees, which I use. The trees are such a good foliage item to use in builds because they take up so much space. So it's a great way of filling empty areas without using a ton of items. And that's probably my biggest recommendation to anyone who has a lower count limit, is to make use of the tree clusters and the larger size trees, because they will help fill in your builds a lot without having to use a lot of items. I do use quite a few items in this build, but certainly nowhere near as many as what I used in my forest. Which actually, I have been editing my forest. Can you believe it? I only have that build posted like the other day, and I've already started editing it a bit. I've started trimming down a few of the items, just getting rid of some of the fireflies and stuff like that, just so it's not so full on, and so I regain a little bit of my item count. Because I kind of had a feeling that maybe I might need to do that. And then obviously as I get towards the end of building my valley, I can certainly add more pieces in if I need to. So sometimes that's the thing. I think as a decorator, I think it's like sort of, or at least as a decorator who creates content, I should say, I think it's important to be honest about the changes in the valley, about how you can build something, feel like you're happy with it, and then change it like literally within hours. You know, I'm constantly, you know, tweaking stuff, changing stuff up, moving stuff around, especially as you go through your kind of like day-to-day valley life, especially when there's star paths. Sometimes you realize, oh, actually this doesn't function very well, this setup, so I'm going to change it. So I think it's one thing to kind of like just say, hey, yeah, even as content creators and decorators, you know, we have to change stuff up. We have to alter things. So even if you're not fully happy with a build, or you find yourself changing it like shortly after building it, that I think is very normal. You know, you're not alone, basically. You're not alone. And often even I have a lot of doubts about my own builds and stuff like that, and whether I'm fully happy with them and stuff like that. So don't feel like you're alone, and that like, oh god, everyone does these beautiful builds, I'm never on that level and I'm never happy with mine. Even I feel like that. So I appreciate I can't speak for all content creators, but at least for myself, you know, not every build is going to work out. Sometimes you do need to change stuff up a little bit and things like that. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that. I actually, when doing this build, struggled a little bit because even some of the decor items, even I didn't kind of have a vision of what I wanted to use. I knew when I went into the build that I wanted to have a very natural inspired look, but even I was unsure about the items I was going to use, so I'm like just pulling stuff out as I'm going through, as I'm searching through each section, because I literally had no idea how I was going to do this build and how I was going to set it up and things like that. So yeah, it took me a bit of time to find the right decor pieces for this build, but I think in the end it all turned out fairly good. And like I said, I did want this largely to be a nature based build rather than a sort of like heavily decorated with decor pieces and such. As we get closer towards the end of the video, I do just want to say a big shout out and thank you to all my channel members and to all my subscribers. Thank you so much for the support on this channel. I do really appreciate it. And to anyone who likes, comments and shares my content, again, thank you so much. We are going to have a bit of a walkthrough tour with this as well. We are going to have a daytime tour and a nighttime tour, but I must admit my favorite time here in the Glade with this build is actually sunset, but I wanted to show you kind of like the daytime variant and the nighttime variant, just so that you could kind of see the difference with the lighting, especially with kind of like the lamps on and the lamps off, so you can see that difference throughout the build. But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. We're going to finish off with some decorating with some final bits of trees and foliage. But thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys!